On this week's episode of The Rundown presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, San Diego is sent home packing, but now the Rapids have Houston on the horizon. And for Off the Pitch, we are joined by forward Darren Yapi. Let's get into it. Welcome, everybody, to the Colorado Rapids podcast presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. I am your host, Mike Rivola, joined alongside my good friend, Drew Moore. Drewby, how we doing, dude? How we feeling on this Monday morning?
I feel great. It's always, all of our episodes are obviously bangers, and you should be watching every single one, obviously. But it always feels just a little better. It's a little bit more vibey in here after a nice victory,
It
right?
always is, man. Especially here at home, it's always nice. Especially the crowd, which was good. We'll get into all that in a little more detail, but the crowd and everything was very, very good on Saturday.
Absolutely, it was a fun Saturday night.
So not Rapids related, but I was definitely still buzzing from last week with Arsenal. So for those who don't know, I'm an Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
Full on, like I remember the days of like Cesc Fabregas and all those guys about 10, 15 years ago, and the result that they got against Real Madrid in the Champions League last week, 3-0, I would have not even dreamt that to begin with, and then the way that Declan Rice scores those two free kick goals, class.
Yeah, you were down in our area in the North Building there during some of the match. I didn't realize how nervous you get for Arsenal matches.
I didn't either.
Very nervous. Are you more nervous with a 3-0 lead than you would be maybe like a 1-0 lead? Like,
that's the thing, because
that sounds weird,
if
but
it was
you know what
literally, I know exactly what you're saying. I think it's if it's literally any other team except for Real Madrid,
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty good about that 3-0.
they traditionally struggle in the Champions League, don't they?
Yeah, that's why they only have 15 trophies compared to literally anybody else. But yeah, it'll be an interesting match, which is this Wednesday, I believe, right? So I'll definitely be tuned in. Probably a nervous wreck. We're trying to watch the game and see if Arsenal can pull through.
You're
which would be
already
awesome.
a nervous wreck about it.
Yeah, I typically am. So that's not the only thing I was buzzing about, though, Drew. There's something I wanted to highlight. We were both at the event, which was the signing day for our Special Olympics team for Rapids Unified. And Drew, this is honestly something that I really look forward to doing. And I think a lot of people really at this club are super excited to be a part of in any way, shape, or form. So with some Special Olympics athletes that we were able to sign on the day officially to contracts with the Colorado Rapids. You were there emceeing, hosting the event with our good friend Connor Cape, who's on the radio, both you guys being on the radio call on the weekends. And I think this is a tentpole moment, an event that we put together as a club, and probably one of the best things, if not the best thing we do at this club is provide this platform for the Special Olympics the Special Olympics team to be able to participate against other existing MLS teams, right? They have like their own version of the Rocky Mountain Cup with the Salt Lakes Special Olympics team. It's a really special and unique experience for these kids, something something you don't get often, right? And the investment you see from the group, like I mentioned, the club as a whole come together to get behind this group is really special. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Caitlin Kinzer here at the club, who for years has been leading the way with this group and with this program, which has been nothing short of phenomenal. And then, of course, the head coach for a number of years now, Molly Underley, who she's an absolutely wonderful person. And this isn't just something she fills a role in. She's very intentional of how she goes about things. But Drew, this is something that's very much worth highlighting and noting and keeping tabs on throughout the year. If you're a Rapids fan, this is something that is very important for this club and for a lot of folks here at the club. For
sure, the Rapids Unified team and the work that CK does with them, but really just what it means to the club, right? In the front office, down in the locker room. These athletes, they always put a smile on your face, and the first team players go out and watch them perform after their matches, right? Because that's usually when their games are, and they've been able to like charter back with us after flights or after games before, right, on the flight home, and just their energy, their character, their personalities is just so much fun. It's a fun group to be around, and the signing day, you see some familiar faces, you see some new faces. It was a fun event at Dick's Sporting Goods, which it always is. It's a special group for this club.
I always look forward to it.
And they are the Rocky Mountain Cup holders.
Yes,
as well.
that's very much worth noting that they are the Rocky Mountain Cup holders against the Special Olympics team versus Salt Lake. So I know they've made a point of trying to keep it this year. So we'll see. So it's competitive, man. They love to get going. Molly, I know, is a winner. She loves to win.
She does, man.
Anything otherwise is not going to cut it. But no, like it's a very, very special thing to be a part of, and I think everybody at the club recognizes emphasizes that, and if anything, is going out of their way to be a part of this group. So something for Rapids fans as well to be attuned to throughout the year, because they'll have 3 matches more often than not throughout the year, and I believe that's the case. So I'll have to check back. We'll check back on that in terms of providing dates so the folks can stay after games for any that are at home, so you can tune in and stay and support the Special Olympics team. So that is always something special that we do every year here at the Rapids, and I'm very much looking forward to once the season properly kicks off with their first match. So quite a bit that we're buzzing about, Drew. Well, at least I'm buzzing about Arsenal and Special Olympics, and then you're buzzing about Special Olympics. But I'm buzzing about 3 points.
Yep.
I'm buzzing about 3 points here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park that the Colorado Rapids were able to earn against a very good San Diego side. A very good San Diego side that we have seen has been one of the headlines, one of the storylines in the league this year, ever since they've joined this 2025 season. And it's plenty to be happy about if you're a Rapids fan. So we'll start going through the highlights here just to give you guys a sense of what happened on the night. So Rapids taking on San Diego for the first time in their history. And to get things started here, Darren Yapi on the ball earns the Rapids penalty kick.
Darren Yapi, just such a special night for him. And you thought he was going to take the shot here, but he decides to upgrade it and try to pass it, wins the penalty.
Who else? Georgi Mihailovic on the PK.
Just ice in his veins. And the more PKs you take, the more goalkeepers know about you, but he continues to step up and convert them. So he's going to continue to be the penalty taker for the Rapids.
And then here, San Diego took a little bit, but they would have a response to eventually tie up the match against the Rapids.
Good teams, good players, they punish you when you give them time and space in the box. And De La Torre is a good player and just a little bit too passive from the Rapids defensively. Still a good finish, and Zach Steffen nearly gets a fingertip to it.
And then that was near the end of the first half. But early on in the second half, the Rapids respond to go up 2-1.
And Darren Yapi gets his much-deserved goal. It's a bit of a scrappy finish at the end, but don't worry about that. That's what good strikers do, and set pieces. They always make a difference. Chris Sharp, as always, has been working hard on him. And Darren Yapi, like I said, gets his reward. And look what it means to him and his teammates, man. This guy was instrumental on the night. Everybody
was in on it. And then, of course, Zach with a fly swatter, you want to call it that?
He waits for Dreyer to commit, right? I think Dreyer thinks he's going to go down, waits. And Zach Steffen, he just uses his instincts and reflexes to make that save.
And here the Rapids looking for the third layoff from Cole on to Hoffa, who scores for the first time in almost a month.
What a great goal from Darren Yapi to Georgi Mihailovic to Cole Bassett to Hoffa Navajo. The amount of attention that Cole Bassett draws, he draws 3 San Diego defenders, and they just leave the Rapids' main goal scorer wide open at the penalty spot, and he says, "Thank you very much." What a goal.
So San Diego would go on to get the second goal from Tomas Angel, but that was going to do it on the night. The Rapids walking away with all 3 points with a 3-2 win versus San Diego. So they got the better of San Diego in their first matchup in franchise history. In terms of the stats, let's look at that, Drew, real quick in terms of how the two teams compared. So the Rapids had 21 shots versus San Diego's 9 shots on goal, rather. The Rapids had 9 versus San Diego's 4. 3 corners for the Colorado Rapids, 5 for San Diego. Possession, we had talked about this, Drew, going into this match. This was kind of expected. 40.5% possession for the Rapids versus the 59.5% for San Diego. We know that they love to possess the ball. That's the style of play. We had seen that develop on the night in terms of how the game developed. So it was a very, very good 3 points, a very hard-earned, well-earned 3 points on the Rapids' behalf. I know we spoke a little bit about the game shortly after, just outside the locker room in terms of our thoughts, immediate thoughts from there. But after watching it back, Drew, what did you make of the match against the Rapids, against San Diego?
It was a really good performance. I think maybe the goal at the end of the match by Angel put a little bit of a damper on things, but also like fuels the Rapids and keeps them a bit more grounded in a sense, because it was overall a fairly, I would say, dominant performance against a very good San Diego side, right? It was a little bit chess matchy maybe in the first half, but some of the performances that the Rapids got and some of the tweaks that Chris Armas made going into the match, which we'll get into, I think was pretty impressive and shows that the Rapids can be pretty dynamic, and they've got a deeper bench than maybe a lot of people thought or wanted to talk about, because San Diego came in flying high, right? Talk of the town, right? They're still the new shiny object within the league, can do no wrong, and the Rapids played them off the park for the most part. Again, I think 3-2. I'm okay with it because we get all 3 points, and like I said, it keeps the Rapids a bit grounded, but it was more of a 3-1 match for me. I think a 2-goal victory would have been, justice for the match overall and just for the performance. Defensively, very good, very compact. Didn't let San Diego do what they want to do. Got them out of their rhythm, right? Yeah, they had a lot of possession, but no real dangerous passes, no real, moments where they had the Rapids pinned in. Zach had to make a couple good saves, but a complete performance by the Rapids and some good individual performances as well, which we have to talk about. We have to talk about Darren Yapi. We have to talk about Cole Bassett. We have to talk about Hoffa Navajo. We have to talk about Sam Vines. There were some good performances.
It was a complete performance, I think, just from the group altogether, and that is a result of everybody individually doing their bit on the night, right? With this match, if after watching it back, Drew, it felt like very much like a chess match, like you said. I think that's the best way of describing it, just because it felt like both teams were looking for their moment to kind of strike, right? So with San Diego, they love to possess the ball, right? So which to their credit, they did a very good job of finding some passes in between the lines, but didn't exactly result in anything. Would put the Rapids on their heels a little bit, but in the end, the Rapids would kind of sort themselves out after a pass or two in between the lines from San Diego, and then the Rapids, right, knowing that San Diego loves to possess the ball and trying to find their moments that way, see if you can go the other way in transition as quick as you can and take on their back line as soon as you can. But it was, Sandy and Chris Armas had mentioned that there was, like, to their credit, that some of those passes, they did break out of the press every once in a while, which we know that the Rapids are very good at. We saw, right, there was a couple moments where they looked a bit casual on the ball. I think CJ Dos Santos got caught by either Hoffa or Yapi and nearly got a chance off that, right? So San Diego's going to live and die by their possession game, even if it means playing the ball back all the way to the goalkeeper up against the goal line. But the Rapids, I think the way Chris Armas put it is, like, they enjoyed the challenge, or they enjoyed what San Diego was about and what the opportunities that presented themselves for the Rapids in terms of the contrasting styles of play. You mentioned some guys that we wanted to highlight. We have to start off with Darren Yapi, who was man of the match. The homegrown had himself one heck of a night, Drew. Let's go through it right now as we're looking through some highlights, some of his best moments on the match. And just in general, Drew, like, what did you make of Yapi's performance as we're going through the highlights?
It was extremely mature, right? He looked like a man that is not just ready for this level, but ready to contribute regularly at this level, right? From start to finish. His hold-up play was very good. He looked strong. He was physical. His defensive work, right? Taking the ball from Dos Santos, the goalkeeper, like you said, Mikey, if you want to mess around in our 18-yard box, Darren Yapi and Hoffa Navajo will make you pay. His ability to come back into the play and win possession back for the Rapids was extremely impressive. We're used to seeing Hoffa do that. You have both Hoffa and Yapi doing it now. That's a new dynamic, and again, he gets his deserved goal. Like I said, scrappy, but right place, right time, which you love to see from a striker. He won the penalty. He was a part of the third goal as well with his hold up play. And I think the chess match started before the match even started with Armas's personnel, and we haven't even talked about it, but he goes with a 4-2-2-2, right? A bit more narrow against the San Diego side that wants to play inside, possession-oriented, and so the chess match starts right away. I guarantee you, Mikey Veras gets the lineup sheet and is like, what? I don't know what's going on here. But Darren Yapi was, for his 66 minutes, the man of the match, deservedly so. Just a complete performance from him.
He was involved in all three goals. Earns the PK for the first goal for Georgia to eventually scores the second, and then, as we saw in the play earlier develop, that's the way he kind of chests the ball down to Hoffa when it's just the two of them versus four. I think San Diego defenders trying to track back. That just shows you he was just on one. That, like, he knows he was in the zone in that moment, and then eventually provide the option to Hoffa, play back to Georgie. The play develops, so that eventually Hoffa gets that goal. For me, I think that it's a little thing, but for a little touch like that, a little moment like that, shows like he's in the zone. And then, of course, when he comes off the pitch, you could hear the crowd, man. Like, you could hear the crowd recognizing the effort, the performance that Yapi had on the night for about 66 minutes or so, and it was well deserved plaudits from the fans and from everybody, because it was one heck of a night from Yapi.
He kept things simple. He played within his abilities, right? And when he had the opportunity, he did his thing, right? His hold-up play was great. He wins the penalty kick. You thought he was going to shoot it first time. He decided, no, I think I can find a better shot than this. Lays it off, gets fouled, takes the penalty, right? The third goal, the chest. That's that's being aware of what's around you, and then having the ability to bring your buddy Hoffa into the play. And then he was simple. And his energy in the locker room after the match was subdued. He knew he had a good performance. He was excited about his performance, but it was like I have more. Like this is what I expect from myself.
What did you make of that pairing with Hoffa and Yapi? Because typically, so you mentioned it with the formation. Let's talk about that, Drew, because this formation was a little different where we did a 4-2-2-2.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the first time Chris Armas has implemented it, at least, maybe first time that I can recall as a head coach, but not the first time in his coaching career.
Mm-hmm.
He was an assistant with Jesse Marsh at the Red Bulls. Teams, those who were paying attention to the league at the time, know very well that Jesse would implement that system a lot with his Red Bulls. What did you make of that system change, and what did you make on top of that, the duo up top between Yapi and Hoffa?
It's a good formation to be able to go to at times, right? And like I said, I guarantee it caught San Diego a little bit off guard when they get the lineup card and they're trying to figure out how are they going to go with this. You can use it against certain opponents. You can use it, depending on the form of some of your players. You can adjust to it during matches, which we've tried, to do at times if we're looking to score a goal. But to do it from the start, and the way that Hoffa and Yapi played together was impressive, because it's not always easy. When for the most part you're used to just playing one forward to then put another one in there. But Yapi and Hoffa played so well together, right? They were always pretty close to each other, which drags San Diego defenders out of positions they're comfortable, or uncomfortable being in. They were simple, right? They brought teammates into play. They brought each other into the play. It was a little bit Batman and Robin, and I think the formation also freed up Cole Bassett a little bit, because we saw him dribbling a lot more and running with the ball than we've seen him so far this season, and unbalancing San Diego with his dribbling ability and passing ability, because Yapi and Hoffa were drawing so much attention from the center backs and San Diego's sixes. It frees up Cole Bassett a little bit, but I thought Yapi and Hoffa played really well off of each other. Their energy was seen, especially in the first half, when they're able to win the ball back 5 or 6 times when San Diego are messing around with the ball. It's something that good. It's good to have in your pocket. I don't know if it's something that Armas is going to be like, yeah, this, we found something. No, they always knew it was something that we could do, but Yapi's been working hard in training. He's been working his way back. He was injured in the off season and been building into it. And if he's going to play like that, then you can't ignore the possibilities of having Navajo and Yapi on the field at the same time.
With Hoffa, I'm going to talk about the formations very quickly, but I think with Hoffa, I know I saw him after the game, and he was very, very happy with one, just not just the goal, but I think he was very happy to have that partner up top to help him, not just with the high press, because I would watch some games, because the last time he scored, I think, if I recall, was at Austin, and which was the game winner, but that was early to mid-March. And so, when you're a goal scorer, the frustration kicks in when you start to hit a stretch of games where you're not scoring goals, what you're paid to do, what you're brought in to do at a club, right? Not only that, but in terms of sometimes like the abuse he'll get from center backs, man, like, because he's doing his darndest to try to like hold up the ball and be physical with center backs, but sometimes he's not getting the call. If a ball is played into space for him or to him, like, it just doesn't come off. So you could see a little bit of frustration kind of build up for Hoffa in terms of not getting not just the goals, but like how the play develops for him or the chances he might get just because of how things kind of play out, right? But I feel like maybe Hoffa kind of enjoyed this game a little bit with just having that second person up top, the duo with Yapi up top to help with the high press, to help with someone to play off of, right? We saw that very clearly with Hoffa's goal, right, where Yapi's helping out with that in that sense. So I know Hoffa was very happy at the end of the night when I saw. I was like, muito feliz con tu gol. He's like, oh, you see, he was very happy. He was very pleased about it. And then Cole was Cole, man. This felt like it was we saw Cole for real this time in 2025. Again, we've seen different changes in the formations, right? Where it's kind of put. I remember at St. Louis that put Cole out wide. Didn't feel like he was fully involved in the game that he would have liked, and that's where you've seen Ollie step into that position against Charlotte, if I'm recalling correctly. And but the ultimate point that I want to get to here in terms of the formations is that it's nice to have that other formation to go off of, right? Because I think anywhere in the world in this day and age that you see a lot of coaches kind of live and die by a formation and a style of play, but that's it. It's that way or the highway. Whereas I think you just need to be able to kind of see who you're up against, right? And figure out, Do we need to maybe bunker down in some games? Do we switch up the formation so that it provides us more attacking options, more width to be able to expose teams if their outside backs are flying high, right? Looking at what the other opponent has to offer and be able to kind of react to that or be proactive if you need to. So the fact that we've fluctuated between 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, 4-2-2-2, like I think it shows. If you're the coaching staff, I'm pretty pleased to see that this group has shown that they have the tactical flexibility to work with whatever solutions that the coaching staff is trying to provide them and go out and execute. We saw that with this win, this 4-2-2-2 that the team executes on the night against San Diego, a good San Diego team. So it is something to be very, very excited about if you're watching the Rapids, if you're a Rapids fan, say, wow, these guys can do it any which way they need to do to get a result.
Yeah, it's good to be able to go to different formations and move players around, move bodies around, move your just your tactics around a little bit. And I thought Ted Kutipietro, who made his Rapids debut, came on. Probably not as many minutes as he would have liked, but it was a great game for him to come into, and he made an impact right away, right? You could see his excitement. You could see his positivity. Just misses playing Kevin Cabral through on one of his first plays, and then has a good opportunity on a cross from Omir Fernandez that he just didn't quite get enough of on the ball. But he's another dynamic that the Rapids have now that Chris Armas and his staff can choose from. And he can play a couple different formations, whether it's an out and out winger, he can come inside and combine and score goals and get assists. And so just a positive night overall from the Rapids, and opens up the door to different players making an impact. Sam Vines, we haven't even mentioned yet, made his first start of 2025. His ability to get up and down the left side is huge. Especially if you're going to play with a more narrow left winger in a Georgi Mihailovic, leave some space for Sam Vines to get into. So, but we've said so much, I feel like already just of the positive play and situations to come out of the match, and that's what Monday mornings are for, though, isn't it?
Yeah, just reminiscing on 3 points from the Saturday night. But yeah, it was a complete performance from everybody, just because of the individual performances you saw from. Mm-hmm. I mean, we listed everybody, man, because everybody really stepped up in what was a very important game in terms of bouncing back from that Vancouver loss, and then just kind of set the path right in terms of getting a home win, and hopefully go from there and find that consistency, which is something that Cole and Chris had talked about in the postgame pressers. Like, now it's about finding that consistency and have some rhythm going as very quickly now, before you know it, we're going to be in the summer, because we're mid-April at this point now, and before you know it, summer hits, and that's a very, 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 very busy stretch for a lot of MLS teams. So it'll be important to find some rhythm going into that before we hit summer, before we know it. So you mentioned Ted, one of our producers was kind of catching something with him post-game, and he was huffing and puffing a little bit. Yeah. So the elevation, like the altitude, is going to do that to you.
It's real.
But Ted, that is someone to be very excited about. Chris had mentioned in his post-game presser as well, where it's like, this is a guy that makes things happen. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of guys that can do that, but to add another player that can do something like that, and Ted is exciting, man. Again, like the fact that he's even in the position to score to begin with, ideally he gets that goal, right? But the fact that he's even in those positions to potentially score, play Kevin in, or make things happen, that he is someone to be very excited about.
In just a few minutes of work, too. He only came on towards the end of the match, right? He was waiting for a while, too. The ball wasn't going out of bounds. It went out of bounds at one point and was played really quickly. And so, but yeah, even just in probably 10 minutes, whatever it was, of work, like a couple really positive plays in a match where you would think we were going to try to just close off the victory. No, he wants to go and try to get himself involved right away, and that's a positive thing to see from this guy.
Yeah, an excellent night from the Rapids, a wonderful night for the Rapids to walk away with all 3 points at home at Dick's Sporting Goods Park against a very good San Diego side. Now, going into this match, if you all were coming to the match here at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, I would hope you guys were using the Rapids app.
Oh man,
because the convenience that presents. You were.
Yeah.
I wasn't, because
sometimes I forget where the stadium is, so I gotta look it up. But I found it through the Rapids app.
Well, there you go. If you forget where Dick's Sporting Goods is, Dick's Sporting Goods Park rather is, even though you've been here for an odd amount of years, the Rapids app is your reference point for that. Whether it's that, to scan your tickets, buy tickets to begin with, to come to Dick's Sporting Goods Park to support your Burgundy boys, amongst other things, videos, highlights, articles, anything that you need that pertains to the Rapids is all on the Rapids app, which is free to download, by the way.
Free.
I must emphasize it is free because I'm always down for.
If it's free, it's for me.
That's the motto.
I'm gonna keep saying it.
I mean, it's kind of hard to beat something that you get for free, right? And again, just the convenience of the Rapids app with everything that it offers you guys, particularly with the game day experience, the match day experience when you guys come to Dick's Sporting Goods Park. So make sure you download the Rapids app today. All right. Well, I was gonna ask like what the time was, but no need for that because I know it's Yappy Hour. It is Yappy Hour because we got the forward Darren Yapi with us for Off the Pitch. Yappy, how are we doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, man. Happy to have you with us. I know it's an off day, so we appreciate you taking the time to be able to join Drew and I here on the podcast. Let's start off with the first question that I got for you here regarding your first start that you got on Saturday against San Diego. That's your first start since September of last year. How did it feel to get that start, to be able to be involved with the group, and then just have the match that you did, now feeling 100% fit after dealing with an injury that you had in the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was kind of tough having to get surgery, and it was a long recovery. But just taking my time and doing the right things with diet and everything, and just working on the shoulder, it means a lot. Just being able to just come back and start and have a great game like that. So.
It was a really good, complete performance, Yappy, on Saturday night. In my view, you played a role in all three goals. You score a goal yourself. You draw the penalty. Your hold-up play on the third goal was impressive. I imagine you have to feel really good about this performance. What's the next step? How do you keep this level up?
Just going back, watching videos, see what I did well, see what else I can work on, and just looking forward to next week. Just preparing myself in training, recovery, and all that just to get ready for Houston.
Yappy's somebody, Mike, that always wants to do extra work on the field. He will literally fight with the coaches in order to do extra work, and we saw some of the benefits of that on Saturday night. But I want to talk about the relationship that you had with Hoffa, right? You've come into games at times and played next to him, but to see it from the start, it seemed like it was really clicking, and that you guys have this chemistry going. Like talk to me about your relationship with Hoffa.
Yeah, the last time we played together in the front two from the start was New York. I think it was NYC. Yeah, it was the last time. So that was the kind of the only time I got to really play with him a bit. But yeah, this game, I feel like it just naturally clicked. I just know what he wants to do, what spaces he wants to get into, and he knows what I want to do as well. So I think that's the most important, just working off each other. So, yeah.
And also, I want to follow that up, Yappy, because I was with you in the locker room after the game, and your energy was very subdued. I know you were excited, right? But it was almost as if you expect this kind of performance week in and week out. I mean, it was mature, it was professional. Talk to me about just your subdued energy, man. Like I love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was really excited, really happy to have that performance on, what was my first start. But again, it's just about keep going, it's still what was that, week 8? Match day 8, I think. Yeah. So we just gotta keep going, keep getting the wins, and yeah, just review what we gotta review and look forward.
Yappy, you're obviously an academy product, a homegrown. You came through the Colorado Rapids Academy to eventually work your way into the first team. And speaking to that really good performance that you had on Saturday against San Diego, how much more did it mean as a homegrown to be able to have the C38 present that ore to you and as a homegrown kind of receive that recognition for being man of the match?
Yeah, just the whole night from the fans, to be honest. Just the start of the game, the energy I got when my name was called in the starting lineup. When I got off the pitch, the little ovation I got, and just getting the ore, just the whole night from the fans. I couldn't thank them anymore. It means so much, being from here and just getting all the love from those guys. So, it was a special night for sure.
For sure, Yappy, and it was very well earned, man. All the plaudits that you got from the fans, coaching staff, everybody. I mean, everybody saw the shift that you put in on that night, defensively, offensively. I mean, every bit of your game on the night was fantastic. So it was very nice to see that recognition as well from C38. You earning man of the match on the night. So after a hard-earned victory with the shift that you put in for almost 70 minutes, what are you doing on an off day, man? What's a typical off day look like for you?
God, I mean, recovery is one for sure. But man, I just play 2K all day. That's all I do, man. I'm just on NBA 2K on the game. But yeah, just chilling, recovery. Yeah, that's pretty much it, to be honest.
Who's your team on 2K?
We got a bunch of guys. We got Kevin, we got Calvin, Jackson, Mike, Kimani. There's a few guys. So
That sounds like a fun off day. Actually.
yeah.
I'd say.
We
Have you guys done like a mini tournament to kind of figure out who's the better 2K player? Or is that something like an answer that some folks maybe don't want?
I mean, we know who the worst is.
Why are you saying that about Kamani and not saying his name?
Nah, that's not Kimani. Kimani's good. Kimani's good.
So tell us who
Yeah,
the worst
someone else.
is.
Spill the beans, Yappy.
You're not going to tell us, are you?
Nah, the worst is definitely Jackson. He's definitely the worst. He's definitely the worst.
Poor Jax.
It's not even close. So yeah.
I'm going to ask Jackson about this tomorrow.
we got to follow up on that. So, Yappy, where do you rank yourself? Last follow up on mine. Where do you rank yourself amongst the group? Be honest.
I named like 6 guys. I'm probably like number 4, just outside the top 3. Probably number 4. Yeah. If I'm being honest.
Humble. He's being humble.
All right. No, I respect him, man. No, Yappy knows what he's about. Listen, if he's not balling on an off day on 2K, he's balling on the pitch with the Colorado Rapids. Yappy, we appreciate you taking the time on an off day to join us on the Colorado Rapids podcast. And once again, well done on Saturday against San Diego, man. All the plaudits and all the love for you, man, for what you did that night.
Thank you guys so much.
All right, Drewby, let's go around MLS real quick here. So to start, we're going to go through the Western Conference standings. So just so folks have an idea of like where the Rapids sit relative to all these other teams in the Western Conference. So as you can see, Vancouver Whitecaps, very clearly at the top. They've very much earned that. They're standing there. It feels like we're talking about them every week, Drew. And right now the Rapids, oh my God, my vision is worse than I thought. Drew, you're going to have to help me out here.
Minnesota United are second. San Diego are third. Portland. Who would have thought though that this group, in the top 5 or 6 would have been in the top 5 or 6, and you see the likes of LAFC and LA Galaxy, Seattle Sounders as far down as they are. This changes, every single week, but Rapids in a good spot.
The Rapids, yeah. I mean, they've been finding some results. Again, we talked about it, just them finding some consistency so that hopefully they find themselves higher up the table. And yeah, you look at some of this, like Vancouver, let's start off with them. And this is, I know. It's talking about Vancouver.
We have to talk about them.
Yeah,
as long as they keep doing what they're doing.
With how well they're doing this season, you have to talk about them, right? So obviously we saw that the Rapids lost 2-0 a couple weeks ago at BC Place against the Vancouver Whitecaps. This past weekend, they just ran over Austin. I mean, Austin hadn't hopped off the bus, I think, at that point. It was a 5-1 win for Vancouver. Brian White gets 4 of those goals. He's in blazing form right now for the Vancouver Whitecaps, has been so ever since he joined in January camp with the U.S. men's national team. And on top of that they were able to move on in CONCACAF Champions Cup to the semifinal against Miami, which that's happening on the 24th.
Yeah, they have Messi coming into town, so that'll be fun for Vancouver. But they're a complete team right now. They're the best team in MLS right now. I'll say that even before they play Miami here in a couple weeks in CCC. But the game against Austin could have been 11-1.
Yeah,
they dominated. Brian White is playing at levels that we talk about Brian White because we respect his play and how good he is. But Vancouver's our 2-0 result in Vancouver doesn't look that bad after what they did to Austin this last weekend.
No.
But Vancouver's playing at quite a level right now.
No, yeah, they're playing exceptionally well right now, and I think very deservedly so at the top of the Supporters Shield standings with how well they're doing. LAFC versus San Jose. That was an interesting match. The two of the California sides that we had in there. 2-1 win for LAFC. Kind of left it a little late to try to maybe solidify things a little bit. San Jose got one fairly late to make things interesting there. What did you make of that matchup, Drew?
It was a really good game. It was pretty open. Lot of chances. San Jose took 147 shots, it seemed like. Denny Bawanga gets his first league goal, right?
Finally.
And so, will he build off of that? I really like Nathan Ordaz for LAFC. I think he's one of the promising young, I wouldn't even say he's up and coming anymore. I think he's here, right? But yeah, those two teams, they're exciting teams. They have good attacking weapons, and it was a pretty good open match late on Saturday night.
Yeah, late. It's past my bedtime, man.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm viejo. Like if I can't even read what's on the screen, I'm viejo at this point as well.
Apparently,
I need
I
my
struggle
glasses.
as well.
All right, and then the last one, we wanted to touch base on the Portland versus or SKC versus Portland match that was at Children's University Park. Portland unbeaten in 5 matches, and they earned the 4-2 victory over Sporting Kansas City post the Peter Vermees era. 2 goals from Kevin Kelsey, the Venezuelan, so that puts him on 3 goals on the season. Portland they're kind of flying, man. They're doing their bit right now.
They are. They're a tough team, man. They attack with a lot of juice, like we talk about whenever we play against them. Antony is he's so rapid and in transition, very impressive. And yeah, Kevin Kelsey, he also forced the own goal, and so he's playing with a lot of confidence right now as well. I think they're getting healthier because they've had a couple injuries as well, and so Portland, as always, is a team to look out for.
They certainly are. And we still have the fixture later on this year going to Providence Park where the Rapids will have to head there at some point. We'll see if maybe the Rapids can change their fortunes because that's always a difficult place to play regardless of who it is. But the Rapids have had a tough time going there. So we'll see if what that match presents once it comes around. So that'll do it for Around MLS in terms of very quickly touching base on some other matches and teams and what's going on around the league. But let's do a little Pids talk, Drew. I'm all about the Rapids right now. So in terms of what we got coming up for the Colorado Rapids, they head to Houston to play the Dynamo. That's going to be Saturday, April 19th, 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time kick. It's going to be at Shell Energy Stadium. If you happen to be traveling there, that's where you got to go. If not, you can always catch the matches on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. In terms of the form, Drew, we're looking at Houston right now with their last 3 matches. They had a 3-1 loss at Portland, 1-0 win versus LAFC. That was their first of the season.
Yep.
And then this past weekend where they drew at the LA Galaxy, they were up a man for close to an hour.
Yep.
And kind of let the 3 points, I think, get away from them, I would say, in that instance. And in terms of the records for both sides, Houston right now 1-4-3, the Rapids 4-2-2. I kind of like the formation from this past weekend. Played out perfectly there. And then with points, Houston are at 6, Colorado on 14. Houston have scored 6 goals so far. The Rapids have scored 11. Goals against, Houston have 12. Colorado have 11. And then average possession, this is another team that we expect to possess the ball, Drew. Houston has 51.6 average possession so far on the season, whereas the Rapids have 44.7%. So some things of note with Houston, they shuffled the roster quite a bit, and I think in a fairly significant way, not in numbers, but in terms of the personnel that they saw leave from the Houston Dynamo. So Coco Carrasquilla, the Panamanian, who was lights out for them the last couple of seasons, he went to Pumas in Mexico, and then Hector Herrera, they did not renew his contract, so he left the club. But in terms of who they brought in, a couple pieces that I really do like here. One guy who's for the long term, Jack McGlynn. They brought him in over from the Philadelphia Union, who's really good on the ball. I think suits them pretty well in terms of what they want to do. And then Nico Lodeiro. This is a guy we know mainly with Seattle Sounders, right? One of the best 10s that we've seen in this league. I think at this stage in his career, probably just off the bench, able to help and provide the experience that he has, which is a tremendous amount. And just recently, on April 11th, they signed Jonathan Bond, the former Galaxy goalkeeper, who I think is going to provide quite a bit of leadership and stability for that side. So I think that's a good signing for them. But Houston, again, like I mentioned earlier, that they only got their first win of the season against LAFC, and that was what I think 6 games into the season so far. So, and part of that is some of the offensive struggles that they've had. This is a team that we've seen that likes to possess the ball. They do it well. It's not just for possession's sake, just for the sake of it, that they're holding onto the ball. They do it really, really well. Right now, in terms of, like I mentioned, with offensive struggles, they have 6 goals so far in the season. They're ranked 26th in expected goals, and they have no proven goal scorers on the roster, at least MLS proven goal scorers on the roster. So, Drew, what have you seen from this Houston side that, why are they kind of struggling in the way that they are, especially when you saw this side that 2 years ago won Open Cup, was playing really nice possession, fluid football under Ben Olsen?
I think there's struggles because what we just talked about, you lose a Coco Carrasquilla and a Hector Herrera, right? And those were big parts of the middle of that field and that offense, and so you bring in Jack McGlynn, and he's done extremely well. He's a good player. He's but he's a new player to the system and to Ben Olsen and Nico Lodeiro. I love what he's done in his career, but like you said, he's more of a probably option off the bench at this point, and so while Ben Olsen is still there and they still have an identity in terms of their possession and wanting to keep the ball and wanting to get width and you know their outside backs and wing backs involved, you know, they're struggling to create chances, and I think it's some personnel, it's recognition, it's understanding each other. And it just hasn't quite clicked for them yet. But they still have players that can hurt you, right? McGlynn can hurt you. Ponce can hurt you. Amin Bassi can hurt you, right? And so, and you know, Griffin Dorsey flying up that right side has been kind of a staple of them the last couple of years and getting involved in the attack. But it just hasn't clicked. And when you're playing against a team that, you know, things aren't quite clicking, you have to punish them. You have to, even at their place, like from the start, like, you're not going to develop any cohesion against us. This isn't going to be when the turnaround happens, right? They beat LAFC just 2 weeks ago at their place. So they're still a dangerous team with dangerous players, but don't let them think that they can get into a rhythm and you know, do what they want to do with the ball and stretch you know, across the field. And I expect the Rapids to go in and you know, play with confidence after what they did to San Diego last weekend, and go in and be prepared to take all 3 points in Houston.
Despite the offensive struggles, you mentioned quite a few of the guys there,
Yeah.
Drew, that like this is still, for me, this is still a pretty good Houston side despite the offensive struggles, which I think that's something maybe the Rapids can take advantage of. But you mentioned quite a few guys there that are dangerous, and one guy in particular that really sticks out to me is Jack McGlynn.
Yeah.
So this is the midfielder that they got from the Philadelphia Union about a couple months ago. This is the guy who's pulling the strings for them, plays passes in between lines, can shoot from distance. He's as dangerous a player as they probably have on that roster right now, just because of how good he is on the ball and some of the opportunities he's going to look for on goal. He's not afraid to shoot from distance. So Jack McGlynn for me is a guy that you just have to keep tabs on, whether you limit the amount of time he's possessing the ball, or, I mean, ideally that, right? It just really comes down to that in terms of shutting down, for the most part, what Houston does in terms of possessing the ball, moving it around pretty efficiently sometimes. They like to shift around and shift teams from side to side, do diagonals to kind of throw them off a little bit as well. So, and Jack McGlynn, I feel, is like the perfect guy for them in terms of how they're going to play and how they like to play in possession. So for me, on the Houston side, Jack McGlynn is going to be the player to watch because he's pivotal for what they do and how they do it.
And that's why they bring in a Jack McGlynn, right? Because of his abilities, and he's got a nice left foot. You give him time and space, he's going to punish you. And so my Rapids player to watch, partly because of that, but also because of his performances, is Oliver Larraz. And this is somebody that just doesn't get the credit that he deserves in this league, and he's underappreciated. His ability on both sides of the ball is crucial for the Rapids. He can attack extremely well. Just 2 years ago, he was an MVP candidate in MLS Next Pro because of his goal contributions, his goals, his assists. And then he plays pretty much the entire season last year for the first team, and it kind of goes under the radar. And he looks even more mature and stronger and dominant in the middle of the field for the Rapids. And his you know, the way he's able to free up Georgi Mihailovic and Cole Bassett and let them go do their thing on the offensive side, and he partners really well with Josh Atencio and breaks up plays and has the ability to control the middle of the field with those guys. And I just think, you know, it was interesting. Phil Neville said after their Portland's game against Sporting Kansas City that David Ayala is the best midfielder in the league right now, and he pointed out both sides of the ball, right? And he's a very good young midfielder, is Ayala. But if you're going to back your guy, I'm going to back our guy. Oliver Larraz is one of the best two-way midfielders in the league right now, and he's doing it without anybody really talking about him. Chris Armas and his staff know how important Oliver Larraz is, and he'll be instrumental in Houston on Saturday night, but he's just been instrumental all season and deserves a lot more credit that he's getting, you know, both sides of the ball.
I remember when we had Tom Bogert last season towards the end of the year when he talked about players. Sometimes players, you notice their presence or their lack of presence, like the effect that has on a team. And he made a note of Cole when he wasn't available towards the last stretch of the season in 2024. I'd rather not figure that out, but in terms of as it relates to Oliver Larraz, Ollie, as you said, like this, everybody has nothing but high praise for him because of the work that he has done. And as we've seen, regardless of what position that he sat in, right? But I feel like Oliver is one of those players that I think you would notice if he's not on the roster in terms of the presence that he provides on both sides of the ball, defensively with breaking up plays in the midfield, and then going the other way with now this year a little more. We've seen a little bit more forward, him moving forward with the ball, with his passes, with his dribbling, which I love to see. Like even more confidence just kind of exuding out of him, knowing that he has a role in this group, a very vital role in this group, I would say. So it's been very nice to see. So even with these offensive struggles that Houston has, and we know the quality that the Rapids have to potentially get after Houston with some of the issues that they're having, what is something that you're looking for in this match, Drew, against the Houston Dynamo?
When I think of Houston Dynamo at their best, I picture their wing play, right? They're always getting their outside backs, wing backs involved in the attack, and that's when they're at their most dangerous, right? I think you just picture Griffin Dorsey on the right side. Franco Escobar can get involved in the attack. They like to build with three at the back and then kind of two pivots, right? Which means they've got five up high, and that can be dangerous. And if they're able to stretch you across the field and get their wing backs involved and get runners into the box, they can be dangerous, And so I think the Rapids will really have to focus on not allowing big switches, not allowing them to pass through you across the field where they've got maybe some time and space and numbers going at you on the wings. Because they still have, as we've talked about, players that can hurt you. And if you give a Jack McGlynn time and space, if he's able to pick out the wingers, if the wingers are able to get crosses into the box to the Ponces and the Bassis and the Ibrahim Alius, right? Like, these guys can still punish you. And I think that wing play for Houston needs to be highlighted for the Rapids on Saturday night.
I'm going to play off that, Drew, as well, in terms of what I'm looking for in this match is on the Rapid side, at least. Go in transition.
Mm-hmm.
I think the transition game is going to be so vital, especially exactly for what you said, Drew, because this is a Houston side that likes to possess the ball and have their wing backs or their outside backs fly forward. That being the case, that means there's space in behind. So if you're the Rapids and you find your moments, you pick your moments to go in transition and expose Houston, you're probably finding yourself up against two center backs if you could just go immediately in the other direction and can take advantage of something like that. We saw that. This was on Sunday Night Soccer on MLS Season Pass. I saw that. It was the Houston-Portland game in Portland, in Providence Park, where Houston, more often than not, had the ball. But I remember there was one moment where I can't remember if it was off a free kick or in possession. No, it was in possession. They had the ball just kind of outside Portland's 18. They lose possession, and before you know, in 10 seconds, Anthony and crew go the other way, and Anthony scores the goal. So I kind of use that as a blueprint for the Rapids in terms of how you can harm this Houston Dynamo team. Catch them in transition, expose those spaces that they're going to leave in behind because of the wing back play that you mentioned, that they're going to fly forward with the rest of their midfielders and forwards. You can expose that. You can really take advantage of this Houston Dynamo side that likes to possess the ball, throw numbers forward, but take advantage of those spaces in behind. And hopefully, more often than not, you're finding themselves, or you find Houston on the back foot and kind of second guessing whether they need to push high and put them in a very precarious spot at home of all places against a Rapid side that we know is very aggressive on the press, on the counter press, and of course in transition as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's you can get after that back line as well. For Houston, it's been kind of a rotating door with Sviatchenko and Steres and Escobar. They've got a young center back, Obafemi. I can't remember his last name, but he's been playing regularly in the middle at the back as well. If Houston gets stretched out, the Rapids, they can hurt you in transition. So that's a good shout, Mike. And I expect it's not an easy place to go play either. You never know what you're typically going to get pretty humid, even in the middle of April. And so that will be something to keep an eye on. But no reason to think the Rapids can't go into Houston and take all 3 points back home.
The humidity is real, man. Oh my, that Texas. I mean, you know, because you're from Texas. Yeah. But man, anytime I go there, I'm like, oh gosh, man, you literally feel it weigh you down. It's that bad. Like, it's awful.
It's you feel it walking from the bus to the locker room. You feel it, during warm-ups. But it's something that both teams have to deal with, and while they might be a little bit more used to it, you gotta get on with it and push through it.
God, I can't imagine as a player having to deal with that. I remember this very vividly. This was in Austin, and what was it, end of July.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So, yeah, you were there. You were still playing at the time in 2021. And all I do with at least in terms of the setup there in Austin with their stadium, all I do is sit down, grab my camera, film during the game. That's all I'm doing. Drew, when I tell you I needed a shower after that, but I couldn't because of everything I have to do post-game, and then hop on the plane to go home afterwards, I felt absolutely disgusting. So hopefully in April, maybe the weather's a little better this time around instead of end of July. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that the Rapids are walking away with all 3 points against, again, like we mentioned, a struggling Houston Dynamo side, but they are very good and very hard to beat at Shell Energy Stadium. So that matchup, of course, is going to be happening, just as a reminder for all our viewers and listeners. Saturday, April 19th, 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time kick between your Colorado Rapids and the Houston Dynamo at Shell Energy Stadium. And, of course, you can catch that match on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. I think that's going to do it, Drewby, for the show now.
Yeah, I think it's been good. I'd love to see. You said Cole Bassett and Chris Armas said it in their post match. Can we be more consistent with it? Because it's been a little up and down, right? So can we be more consistent with it? Can you go and do it 2 games in a row? You got to go to a difficult place to play, but against a team that is very beatable right now. And the Rapids should be going into this week with a lot of confidence, and then going, in turn into the weekend with a lot of confidence. And next Monday morning we'll be just as vibey and happy as we were this morning.
Hopefully. A tough test against a struggling Houston side, but a very, very, very tough test for the Rapids nonetheless. So, like I mentioned, you guys can catch that match on MLS Season Pass. That's going to do it from the crew here. So my thanks to the production team and Rich, Miles, and of course we have a couple special guests in the background as well with us tuning in. Drewby, my good friend, the resident Rapids legend, and of course I've been your host, Mike Ravolo. That's going to do it for this episode of the Colorado Rapids podcast. See you guys on the next one.